Hi, Centenary, how you doing? I got to tell you, I miss you. I'm filming this devotional in our sanctuary, and the sanctuary's empty. Those pews, there's nobody there, and I miss seeing your faces as we do this. But I wanted to make sure we could gather together. You know, I really like us reading the Psalms together. So when Cheryl and I read them at night, I just get that sense that we're together. And I wanted to give us some devotional thoughts on those Psalms as we continue to be together. It's going to be a little bit of time before we're actually able to be in this building again. But until then, we can be together this way. We can be together in our study and in our service and in our faith. So that's what I wanted us to do. Before we begin, I want to just give you a couple of my ideas and see what you think about them. And here's what I want us to try. Starting on Saturday, March 28th, that's coming up pretty quick, I want us all to begin a Bible study through the Gospel of Mark. Now, here's what's neat about it. My thought is we're probably still going to be doing this self-sheltering mode come Easter. But if we start Saturday, the 28th of March, going through Mark, then we hit that 16th chapter of Mark, that resurrection account, on Easter Sunday. And I like the thought of us studying about the resurrection on the day set aside to celebrate the resurrection. So that's coming up. Hopefully we're going to have a once per day released video so that you can study the scriptures with us at your best time. But that's coming up. What I want to do now is I want to go through one of my favorite Psalms. Psalms 27, verses 1 to 3. Let me read it for you. David is the author of this psalm, and David said, "The Lord is my light and my salvation, so why should I fear? Why should I be afraid? The Lord is my fortress, protecting me from danger, so why should I tremble? When evil people come to devour me, when my enemies and foes attack me, they will stumble and fall. Though a mighty army surround me, my heart will not be afraid. Even if I am attacked, I will remain confident." I love those words. You know, there's two trains of thought about when David wrote those words for this psalm. Some people think he wrote them before he became king, in which case he wrote them while he was fleeing from King Saul. Saul, you remember, was jealous of David and tried to kill him on numerous accounts, numerous attempts. And some people think it was while David was running from Saul that he wrote those words, saying, "Though my enemies should come to devour me, I don't have to be afraid because my God is with me." What I like, though, is the other train of thought, and that is that this was coming toward the end of David's life. He was looking back, reminiscing over all of the things that had happened in his lifetime. And he was sitting there kind of smiling to himself and maybe chuckling and saying, "You know, all those times I was afraid, why was I afraid? God was with me. It was going to be okay. It might not be the way I wanted it, but it was going to be the way God wanted it. And I know I can trust God." That's what I want us to see today. Let's turn to verse number 1. Let's take a look at what David writes, and I love this. Look at verse 1. David writes, "The Lord is my light and my salvation." Now notice in your Bibles there, the word Lord is all capital letters. That's what the Bible does when it wants to tell you that the author used the name for God. And so what David actually writes is, Yahweh is my light and my salvation. Yahweh is my God. And isn't that the wonderful thing that he also says there? Do you notice that? He says, Yahweh is my light. Not just a light, not even the light. He says, Yahweh is my light, and he's my salvation, and he's my fortress, protecting me from danger. So why do I tremble? Why is my heart weak? You know, we've been in this self-sheltering mode for about a week now, and some of us have discovered there are people we know who have contracted the coronavirus. And when you hear about people that you know, it becomes a little bit more real. And when it becomes a little bit more real, some of that fear begins to creep in. And God's aware of that. He understands. He doesn't come to us condemning. He comes to us saying, listen to me. I am still your God. I am your light. I love the imagery. You see, in the Bible, darkness speaks about evil and chaos and all kinds of problems. And light speaks about goodness and righteousness and God and the trustworthiness of God. And David says, not only is God good, trustworthy, but he's also my salvation, my rescuer. He's the one who's going to come and be with me in these frightening times. And not even that, he says, God is also my fortress. Now, I've got an illustration here that I absolutely love. It comes from a movie. If you haven't seen, you need to find a way to see it. The movie is called Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And in this movie, King Arthur is on a quest to gather knights around him so he can go and find the Holy Grail, the cup that Jesus used in the Last Supper. And as they're going along from place to place, Arthur is calling knights to come out and join him. And he gets to one castle, a fortress, if you will, made of stone, solid walls. And he calls out and he says, would you come with me? And those inside not only declined, they made fun of Arthur. And so he ordered that his knights attack the fortress. And they did. Swords drawn, they went and started hitting and banging on the stone. And of course, the stones couldn't get hurt. And because the stones were there, the people inside couldn't be hurt. That's what David is saying. He's saying God's with us. And because God is with us, we know we can trust God. We know he's our light, he's good, he's trustworthy. We know he's our salvation, our rescuer. We know he is able, and we know he can save us. Because we know this, we can be not afraid. We can let our hearts no longer tremble with fear. We can know that it's all right. Notice what David says as he continues in verse 2. He says, and I'll tell it to you as soon as I can find it. He says, when the evil people come to devour me, I will not be afraid. Notice he says when. He doesn't say if. He says when, because he's aware of this fact. Looking back over his life, he knows there have been times when people have come to do him harm, but when they come, God is still with him. God's not afraid. God doesn't run. God doesn't hide. God stays with us. Verse 3, though a mighty army should surround me, again I will not fear. You know, that reminds me of Elijah's story in 2 Kings chapter 6, verses 8 to 17. The king of Aram wanted to go to war against the king of Israel. But every time he planned a battle, it seemed like Israel already knew what was going on. So finally he looks around and he says, there's a traitor in our midst. Somebody's telling Israel's king what's happening. And his people said, no, king, it's not somebody being a traitor to you. It's Israel's got a prophet named Elijah. And he's able to find out what we're doing before we even know. And he's warning Israel before we can get there. Well, the king of Aram says, let's take care of that. And so he goes and he surrounds the house of Elijah. And the next morning, Elijah's servant gets up to go outside. I don't know, maybe he was getting some water for coffee. He goes outside. And when he gets out there, he looks up in the hills, and here's the entire army of Aram. And he runs back inside and he says to Elijah, we're in trouble. The entire army surrounds us. And Elijah just smiles. And he says, you don't understand. There's more with us than with the Arameans. Go look again. And he prays that God would open his servant's eyes. And when his servant goes out and looks, sure enough, surrounding the entire army of the Arameans, there's the army of God. And Elijah says, see, we're safe. That's what David says. We're safe. God is with us. Who can be against us? Now, does this mean none of us are going to get sick? Of course not. But it means God knows what's best. And we can trust God. And we can love God. And listen to me, church. One day, like David, we're going to look back over our lives. And we're going to see this moment. And we're going to smile and chuckle a bit and say, why were we afraid? God was with us. Let me pray for you, church. Jesus, Lord, I pray that you would be with us. I pray that you would calm our hearts, quiet our fears. Lord, I pray that you would use us to minister to the needs of others. I pray, Jesus, you will give us that knowledge that one day we will look back at this and we'll smile. Because even here we discover what we already know. You are God, and you are good. Amen. Take care, Centenary. Look forward to seeing you again. Bye-bye.
My heart, Lord, take and seal it for thy courts above. Here's my heart, Lord, take and seal it